to start asking the Bancroft Brothers your burning questions and get gifts.
We also have a microphone down front right there. Mm-hmm. So there will be a portion where we hopefully will get a few people up to ask some questions.
Indeed.
I thought while we do that, we could do some drawings too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and do some drawings, boys. So we're giving away tonight's poster signed by both Bancroft Brothers. And they were so nice to provide this, The Art of Disney Dragons.
Woohoo! I wrote the introduction for that. So
yes.
That's, and there's some of my Mushu drawings.
Yes, and it's signed.
Tim Hortons.
You said you weren't going to do that.
Yeah, I know. That was my last one.
Yeah.
So I was going to talk to you guys about failure, but you covered it so well tonight because
I could talk more about Tony's failures.
Oh, I know. Just
to.
because the last time we were here, we did bring up you guys when somebody had asked a question, and my immediate response was, have you listened to that episode of the Bancroft Brothers podcast? And has anybody here heard that particular episode?
Since then, yeah.
You're allowed to cheer. You can.
And I'll comment on it just to say that was probably one of our most well-received, and most brought up episotions.
Well, I messaged you right afterwards.
Yeah. And it started really from somebody posting on Facebook, a fellow artist, and I think actually he lives in Canada here, and I won't say who, but saying I had posted something about me having a hard time, and on Facebook, and he said, I got so much of a response from people saying, I thought you had a great life because you're always posting about going places and who you've seen and posting drawings that are wonderful, and it really helped me a lot to hear you talk about sort of a hard time in your life, because I'm having a hard time right now. And I read that on Facebook, and I thought, you know what, that's so true of how we interpret social networking and how we interpret people's lives in social networking, that everybody's having a good time. Because nobody posts a bad drawing. Nobody posts a horrible story. I mean, unless it's like, hey, I'm dying, goodbye, everybody. But I thought, you know what, we need to do that with our podcast, is we need to be real and have one where we talk about hard times in our lives and how we dealt with it. Hopefully some kind of a positive outcome.
I think it really did. I mean, I was particularly going through a hard time in my career and my life at the time, and I found it incredibly beneficial. And I hope anybody who has listened to it does, because everybody thinks they get to go to school and come out and go right into the industry, and that's not going to be true for everybody. Some people are going to be freelancers. It's not the end of the world. You just have to be smart about it.
Yeah.
I know when you guys were talking about the business of freelancing, one thing you didn't bring up that I, as a freelancer, have found is very important to put into your contract is how many changes they're allowed to make.
Yeah, sure.
I had to do it with my own publisher because one of the last books that I illustrated that thing 6 times, and I probably only got paid to do it about 3 times. So when she contacted me and wanted me to do these books that were simple line drawings, I knew I could pump out 4 of these pages in a day, and I said, okay, I'll do it for $50 a page because they're simple drawings, but you get 1 change per page.
That's smart.
And she, of course, went, I don't think I've ever asked for that many changes. I'm like, well.
Somebody above you, probably.
Exactly. So
Right.
she agreed to that, and it was probably one of the most enjoyable books to work on because I knew this is going to get done and I'm going to get paid.
It's an excellent point. Because
Yeah.
you're right. That's where there's so many ways that you can get burned. and as artists, we don't think about them until we've gone through it ourselves. And unfortunately, you kind of do have to take a few hard knocks on a few jobs and go, wow, I'm not going to do that again, or I'm going to make really clear up front. So I always say that those first meetings with a client, any kind of client, and unfortunately nowadays it almost always happens over the internet, I don't know how many clients I've never met in my life because that's the way things work now. But yeah, that first meeting and all those questions you ask, because they're going to ask questions like crazy, and you expect that. They're going to tell you what they want. They're going to tell you, and you may ask about creative questions, like, oh, yeah, okay. So you mean this character should look kind of like this, or you like this style, and if it's a character design job. But you forget to ask all the money ones.
Exactly.
And you kind of leave them, you don't want to be rude, you don't want to kind of like, because at that point, they want to get off the phone or stop typing. And so you forget to do that. And you think, oh, it'll be fine. And it almost never is.
What about when you're doing freelance for a friend? I find that is the hardest time to do the money part. You always really undercut it when it's a friend.
My friendship and friends and family freelance is I just say yes and do it for free, or I just say no. And there's no in between. I don't take money from that. And so unfortunately, I have to say no more often than I maybe would if I was going to say, because you're going to give them a deal. Anybody you give a deal to, they become the worst clients you've ever had. So I find that more times than not.
There's nothing worse than devaluing your own work.
Yeah, see now I can attest to that because I do leather work. And
like this?
no, I don't actually make jackets or anything. Actually, I was making
nice jacket though, right? Where did that come from?
But I made a guitar strap for a buddy of mine, and of course he wanted like 300 studs on it. So I kind of calculated out how it's like the amount of time it's probably going to take me. He went out, got the leather, got studs, everything. So he provided me with all the materials, but the leather he got was so thick it ended up taking twice as long as I had calculated out.
Yeah.
So now the thing is, I was kind of pissed off at this point. And it's like, this is killing me. And so I charged him full price, of course. A good friend, too, and he never came back.
Wow. And are you still friends?
We're still friends, but he's not giving me any more business.
Yeah.
I think a lot of artists, a lot of us suffer from mental illness.
Oh, that's true.
It is true. A lot of artists, we're introverts. We have social anxieties. And do you guys have any kind of advice for getting over that and going to like networking events and actually doing,
that's a good question.
Sitting down and having these business meetings because we often devalue ourselves as artists and people just because of our own anxieties. You don't have to put up your hands. I'm sure a lot of you understand.
Yeah, that's hard. I mentioned in the talk that I'm now an instructor at Lipscomb University, and it's funny because, and Tony and I can both attest to this, whenever we do signings at comic conventions or at CT and Expo, it feels like a lot of our fans are people that have some kind of a social or emotional or even physical kind of a situation. And my wife works with those people. She's a speech pathologist, so she's been really helpful for me in my life to have a better understanding of special needs kind of situations. And it's true at Lipscomb, a lot of my students, it seems like half of them have some kind of an issue that they're dealing with. But they're all so diverse and so different. I can't answer how somebody can deal with that. But I will say that, some of my most talented students are the ones that do have those social problems. They don't, and as an instructor, I can at least say, well, I'm going to work with that student a little differently. I'm going to come to him or her and talk to her personally rather than have her speak in front of the class, because I know that's going to be something that's going to terrify him or her. And so I'm starting to be careful about that once I get to know them a little better.
Well, we even saw it at Mercury today, is the inability to take praise.
From Tony?
Well, even...
My mic's still on, by the way.
Yeah.
Although he wasn't
I hear
handing
you
out
and
too
I can
much
speak.
praise.
Oh, okay. How's that? Puba? Oh, big hug.
Yeah, that Puba is on point. All right, we're going to start taking questions from the audience because I want to get as many as we can in.
Yeah.
And try to get out a little early because the brothers will be outside in the lobby signing things and selling books, and that's very important. So you can come right up to this microphone.
Oh my.
In an
Wow.
orderly fashion.
They are over their social anxiety.
Yeah. No social anxiety here.
All right, so until we run out, every question gets a poster. When we come to a really
What?
amazing question,
Are
we're
there
going to give
signed
away the
posters?
book.
We signed them too.
Yes,
There's a lot of posters.
All right, fire.
Hi, I'm Maria.
Right up to the mic so we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Maria.
Hi, Maria.
I'm in my 3rd year of Algonquin animation here.
Right
Oh,
on.
great.
So, you guys said that you guys worked on The Lion King together. Mm-hmm. And
But separate.
separate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But was there a point where you worked together on one scene with Simba and Pumbaa? Mm-hmm. Like in one scene where you have to, like if one of them was facing to the ground or one of them was just bumping into each other, was there any problems going on there?
Like interaction between the two of them?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, that is always a hard thing to do in traditional animation, is to do that interaction between two characters, because you're literally having to draw either on the same piece of paper or another piece of paper over it, of course, and making sure that you're making it look like they're touching. And so a lot of that interaction becomes now erasing on the other character and making it, yeah, there you go. Got your poster. And yeah, there were times that Tony and I worked on 1 or 2 shots together. I don't know if Pumbaa ever touched Simba at that point.
Not in that way.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
I know what you're thinking.
Not literally, I guess, but yeah, we worked on a couple of scenes where they were interacting with each other, and so yeah, obviously, and in that case, a lot of times the lead animator, and what I mean by that is whichever character in that scene is sort of leading the motion or leading the, like if Pumbaa says, hey Timo, and he talks first, say, hey Simba, wake up little buddy, whatever, and Simba is just laying there, and then he reacts and starts to wake up. That would be an example where, say, Tony would go first, and then he'd literally give me the drawings that he did of Pumbaa, and I would then add Simba on another set of drawings, but I would be referencing what he did. It's really old school, and it really doesn't happen anymore like that. I'm telling you.
It must have taken hours for you guys.
Well, then add on top of that we were 3,000 miles apart. And so literally we were mailing stacks of drawings back and
That was
forth.
back in the old days when we had to use mail. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've heard of There's
Snail,
a postal
yeah.
system.
Not digital mail, yeah.
Yeah,
It's snail mail.
not digital.
It's crazy.
All right, thank you. Oh, yeah, you're next.
Hi, I just wanted a free book. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Get
I'm
out.
actually-
I'm taking this one home now.
You ruined it for everybody.
Okay, sorry, I'm really nervous. Okay.
You should be.
How many questions are we allowed to ask? This is like
Just one. There's a big line. Come on now.
Okay.
Tony will come over there.
I'm about ready to come on down there.
Will you give the girl a break?
I'm sorry.
So we are taking turns.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So earlier you were talking about how you need to get yourself out there and post, but I always have that problem with the confidence. I don't know how to get over that, how to become a multi-poster. I don't know. I can't even post one drawing. I don't know how you guys.
You gotta, sometimes it's a matter of lying to yourself because you're your worst critic. Most of you guys are your worst critics right now. And you gotta know that there's people out there, and maybe it's just your mom right now that's ready to like that drawing, but there's people out there that will appreciate you taking that step forward and will like your drawings far better than you will ever like those drawings. I do that all the time. It doesn't matter who you are. Even Tom, oh my gosh, who does this, where you overthink things and you think, oh, I don't know if this is really worthy. Should I post this? Oh my gosh. Those are the drawings that I've gotten the most likes and the most reaction to because somebody else saw something in it that I never saw. Do it. Just do it.
It's just that when I want to immediately I want to change the drawing to be better, then I ruin it, and then I don't post anything.
Well,
You
knowing when
wanted
to
a
let go is a
secret?
key part of
Yeah,
being an
don't
artist.
overthink it.
Post your roughs. I've started posting on Instagram only in the last couple of months, and I get the most likes from my roughs before I've inked, before I've colored. So I'll start posting the entire process, and people eat that up.
DeviantArt is full of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
People love to see your roughs. As a
know,
matter of fact,
and also
half the
the-
time I hate my drawings after I've inked them.
Yeah.
I love the rough.
That's true. And the point of it is really, and this is kind of the other upside of my saying you should post something every day, right? It's intimidating, it's scary, but what it really does is it motivates you to draw every day. And just drawing something every day, and whether or not you post it, I think that's secondary. But the drawing every day part is what's going to make you better and like what you post, right? They go together hand in hand because it's practice. You're practicing something every day.
But I always feel like it has to be perfect before you even let anyone see it.
I know, and I kind of used to feel that same way too, and that was my early days of DeviantArt. It was like, oh, I'm not doing color stuff, and people respond to color, and do I have to color everything? And I started just going, no, I'm not going to ever post anything, because I rarely get to that point. I'm moving on to something else. So most of what I do, about 90% of it, almost every time, is just a rough sketch. And so I'm going to start posting that, and turns out people liked it. Because, you know, we're all artists. We love the rough stuff, right? That came out wrong, too.
But it's true, too. Thank you.
But it's all true.
All right. Are you going to take a turn drawing, or are you going to let him hug all the glory?
Why don't you come over here now, Tom? We'll
I
switch
can't.
places.
I mean, you're better at
I'll
giving
finish this
advice.
As usual.
I love this pencil, though. Gosh, what is this? Blackwing, yeah.
You don't know what the Blackwing is?
No, I just didn't realize. I didn't never looked at it. That's all.
Wow.
Why don't we switch places? And
All right. You can sit. Whoa.
Tag.
He left
Hi,
your
what's
hand.
your
Hello,
name?
my name is Jordan. I'm also a third year in animation this year, so I'm very excited. First off, I want to say thank you guys for being here. You guys have personally been a big inspiration. Like Lion King is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, so thank you very much for that. And, yeah. So
Thank
my
you.
question for you guys, what would you guys say has been your most valuable learning experience, and how would you sort of like kind of, I guess, share that with us so we can take from it and kind of learn to interpret that in our own way. So
She's
we
really
can,
trying to get the book.
Yeah.
I'm just,
I wrote a book
mean-
called Directing for Animation. It has all kinds of wisdom in it, and I suggest it for $30. No, kind of, so the kind of a word, boy, there's been so many. I mean, I had some of the best mentors, I feel like, in my career at Disney. There was a guy named Will Fenn, who was my animation mentor, and he was the supervising animator of Cogsworth that I was just drawing, and later I'll do a Yago. He was also in charge of Yago.
Look what happened to Cogsworth. What? Are you got a little mustache? Should have left that there.
All right, leave that Mushu up there. I guess we've talked a little bit already about the confidence is so important. And if you can't have that confidence, you kind of have to, like if it isn't naturally there, where you kind of have that cocky and confidence are two different words, obviously. And cocky is the negative side of confidence. But I almost feel like cocky is important too, because it's that stupid kind of confidence where you just kind of bullishly go forward. And sometimes we need that, especially when we're young. We were talking about that earlier, I know.
Yeah.
I have a great example, and this is not something I learned from Will Fenn, but an anecdote that I have about confidence and the importance of that comes from Freddie Moore. Freddie Moore was one of the original, before the Nine Old Men, one of the original animators that worked with Walt Disney that helped create the Mickey Mouse that we know today. Not the Mickey Mouse that we know from the internet things that Mercury Films did, but before that, the traditional Mickey Mouse with the eyes and everything. And Freddie used to do a thing, and I've heard this through the years from different animators that kind of handed this story, this bit of wisdom down. where Freddie used to need a certain amount of, when he got a big scene, and it came across his desk, and he would procrastinate like all of us, and there was stories that he would like to hang out and go have, liquid lunches and hang out and go to the park and sleep too much. And
You're
stuff
talking
like
about
that.
Tim Hortons, right?
Right, go to Tim Hortons. But he would come back, and his way of getting himself juiced up was he would hang out with his posse of other animators and his in-betweener and rough in-betweener and kind of his group that worked on his scenes with them and say, guys, yeah, I got a scene to do. Tell me how great I am. And it was literally like this was the thing that they would go through, and they go, Freddie, you're the best. Freddie, you're the fastest animator here. Freddie, Walt Disney wouldn't be anything without you. I wish I was 2 times, just had half of what you are, Freddie. And they would it was kind of a put-on thing, but he kind of needed this to boost him up. And oh my gosh, that last scene you did, Freddie, I could go on about it. I love the blinks and the head turns that you did. Oh my gosh. And all this stuff would kind of soak into him, hearing all this kind of, just filling himself up. And he would go into his office and shut the door and crank out some of the fastest, best animation, large amounts of scenes, because whether it was false or not, he needed that kind of confidence of going, I am worthy and I can get past myself, right? We talked about that before. And I think getting past yourself and having that sometimes cocky confidence is the difference between, the Freddie Moores and the Glenn Keanes and everybody else.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see that cocky walk as you leave the mic. All right.
Hey, I'm Jeff. I'm in second year of animation here.
Hey,
So I started listening to your podcast recently while working on animation.
you saw the posters and you're like, oh, I better listen up on some of these podcasts. These guys are coming.
Pretty much it, yeah.
Okay, good.
And so I really like the interview podcast the best, where you talk to other animators. I noticed that a lot of them are from Cal Arts.
Yeah.
I kind of want to ask, for the people who aren't going to Cal Arts, how do we get to where they are at?
Well, I mean, the stories, you're right. I mean, we it's not that we have a bias, but we tend to just call our friends that we know. And since there is a community of Cal Artians, that work in the industry, and they tend to be historically, people have said there's a Cal Arts mafia, and they only hire each other, and that's partially true. But more than that, it's these were the original creators. These were the Tim Burtons and John Muskers and Brad Birds that have gone into the industry and become the head directors and main supervisors at all the studios, and they've gone out and really made something. But besides that, what was your question?
How do you get to that point? But
Oh, how do you get? Oh, yeah.
but it's not just people from Cal Arts.
It's not.
You guys mentioned Jessica Lynn Barutsky earlier. We've had her on our podcast.
Yeah.
She started out right here at Algonquin. She submitted a short animated film to Frederator. Everybody loved it. She got hired at Fuel here in town. And in her spare time, she would keep doing internet stuff. And then Warner Brothers contacted her and said, hey, would you like to redesign the Looney Tunes? And so she did. And she was like, I'll never hear from them again. And then they're like, hey, do you want to come be the lead character artist on that? So she did. And then she worked on Wabbit afterwards. And now she has her own series, Banuncula.
But yeah, I mean, the answer is really the same, Cal Arts or not. Everything that we talked about in those 8 points that we talked about tonight, those are all things that every single one of those creators that have had success, whether they're from Cal Arts or not, have done. And there's nothing more, no hidden secret out there than you have to have great goals, aspire to be the best, work hard, keep on learning, be bold, be confident, get yourself out there, market yourself. All those things that we said are exactly what all those people did. But they did it in their own way. They found their own way. Everybody doesn't have to go the same way. Just as many people we've interviewed on the podcast has their own story of how they became successful in some way. And they all have their own stories of their failures, too. We always have to remember that. That's the other side of the coin. But those success stories are all the same and have those same components that we talked about tonight.
His Pumbaa is way better than yours.
I'm trying.
Thank you.
You bet, man. Hi.
Hi, I'm Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Use your microphone voice.
Hi, I'm Mark.
I might get closer.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm in second year animation like Jeff. My question is, you said you worked on Aladdin, right?
Yeah, Tom and I
And
both.
what was it like working with Robin Williams? And did you become, were you close to him as friend?
I wish I could say that I worked with Robin Williams. Animators at Disney, and especially at that time, are cast into characters by the directors for their, things that they're good at, their strong points. I was always a comedy character guy, and yes, the genie is a comedy character, but I got into Will Finn's unit working on Iago. So I worked with Gilbert Gottfried, so I was there at his recording sessions and stuff and got to see him perform. But I
That's
never
too
was
bad.
invited because I wasn't on the genie crew. And it was a very small thing, to tell you the truth. There was not big crowds in those recording sessions. And they only came and recorded not in our building where the animators are, but technically they were over in the main lot, and they had closed doors, and security was optimal because they're big stars, particularly Robin Williams. So it was like the directors, producers, supervising animator, maybe a writer or two. That was it that was in the room. So I never got to meet Robin Williams on Aladdin, but he did come by and met with a lot of the genie animators. I know Eric Goldberg had somewhat of a relationship with them as the supervising animator of the genie, and many of the unit guys met him. But I know from hearing the stories that, and I know this true from Gilbert Gottfried and meeting a lot of comedians and voices, we were talking about this earlier, that it's amazing how quiet and shy they are. And I heard this about Robin Williams too, is that in meeting people, he was just like, "Hi, how are you doing? Yeah. So I'm Robin Williams, and it's nice to meet you. I love what you're doing here." But you get them in front of a mic and they turn on. They know when to perform, and they keep that energy into themselves, and they're just kind of regular and normal and down usually. And some of them are emotionally down outside of the mic and the spotlights. And we all know how Robin died, and there was definitely a depressive side to him too. And that's one of the things that we don't know. We're fans. We love seeing him in front of the mic and on the camera and stuff and in movies. But they are human beings too, and they have difficult lives. All that is to say is that Robin was one of those guys that he came alive when you put a mic in front of him, and he was just amazing. There was actually one quick story about Robin that I heard secondhand from the directors on Aladdin, was that for that opening sequence, Robin does the voice of not only the genie, but also the narrator in the beginning. There's that, guy that's selling his wares in the beginning and stuff. And "Hey, let me tell you about Agrabah, a little man named Aladdin," and whatever he says. And but only it's Robin Williams, and it's funny. But he does the voice for him too. And then ultimately we see that character is actually the genie, and it was really the genie basically telling the story of Aladdin himself at the end, right? But there's that opening thing where we see him in front of his cart, and he's talking about all these things. Look, it's a Tupperware, and he makes it fart and stuff like that. Well, they literally got in the room with him, and knowing that Robin Williams is Robin Williams, and he's so great with improv, they just put some certain things on a table, from what I heard. Like, there was a Tupperware container, and there was this and that. Crazy stuff that they just put on a table, and they said, "Okay, Robin, use these objects in some way and just kind of riff off of that. You're selling them, And he did like 20 or 30 different riffs off that. They have a bunch of material from that gag recording session, and they just used the very best and the most kind of thing that worked the best into what the story is for that bit. But yeah, I mean, he was amazing. And it was one of those films when, I mean, I could go on and on about it. So many stories, but I can go on about what the animator brought to the genie too, which I think is incredible. Eric Goldberg, who was a genius, and he was just out of the blue for us, because that was the first film he was hired on. He came from England, and he came into the studio and all of a sudden started cranking out this animation that nobody had seen before, and it was different. It wasn't like we were all doing on Lion King and stuff like that. He was doing some snappy poses, and he was very Warner
Like
Brothers
Warner Brothers,
influence.
yeah.
And it was kind of, he alone, not only Robin Williams to that film, but brought so much to the genie that it inspired us all. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, take that
Hey.
first. There you go. Hey.
Yeah, no, I'm like nervous, so.
No, don't
Of course,
be.
I rehearsed this question in my head while
Yeah.
I think it, so I'm totally gonna mess it up.
Good.
Thank you so much for creating the characters that we know and love. Like Kronk, I love doing his theme music in my head when I go through Clara. It's hilarious. But do you feel that animation really can only portray happiness? All of our animated movies do that job of leaving with that happy ending and loving thing, but like, I feel like there's so much to life that can be expressed through art. And
Yeah.
it's my favorite art form, which is why I believe, like, do you feel like there's a place for that?
Oh,
in
yeah. I mean,
The Little Prince.
right. The Little Prince is a good example. I like what Leica is doing right now. It just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a commercial success or an artistic success? And that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because it's not about happy or sad. It's about different kinds of stories, right? And what Disney does, what Pixar does, what Warner Brothers does, and most of the major studios out there, is they want to make, they're into the business of making animated films, right? And so it's show business for a reason. And they're all about what's going to be the most commercial elements, right? So let's talk about brands. You know, are these fairy tales? Are they known commodities? Are they known brands that people have heard about? That's going to make it more marketable. Who are the stars that are going to be attached as voices, and are they marketable? Why is Miley Cyrus in Bolt? God knows. There's a whole story about that that's on one of our podcasts with, what's his name, Tom, that did that podcast? I'm giving it to you.
Miley Cyrus?
Yeah, there was a Miley Cyrus story.
I don't remember that at all.
Oh, yeah. He's in his own world. He doesn't even know. He's like, I'm drawing Pocahontas.
I'm struggling over here. Be quiet.
But yeah, I thought you'd be ready for that. But yeah, there's I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But yeah, it really does come down to, I mean, you look at Leica and you look at small independent studios that want to make more art house films, they're making a choice. You really are. You're making a choice when you go that road. Do you want to make money or do you want to make art? You could do both. Is there a way to do both? I think so. And there's movies that are commercial successes that rise above some others that we all have our favorites. And I would say, oh my gosh, that was so impactful. Whether it has a happy ending or a song in it or a character that is a plush toy, that doesn't matter to me. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what Disney does and does well, and Pixar and all those studios, is they make films that impact our lives in some way. They do speak to us emotionally. So whether we cry at the end or we laugh as we go out, during the credits, I don't think it really matters. I think it matters how it touches you.
For darkness, I'll go to the animated Batman films. The Spawn series from the 90s. It was like, that was incredibly dark.
And
They made no money, but wow, yeah.
well, and look at The Little Prince. I mean, clearly the studio got scared right before it was about to be released theatrically.
Yeah,
And
that was
just-
so weird. I don't know why they let that
and
go.
It was probably the best animated film I saw that year.
I know.
And thank you, Netflix, for saving that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That makes me happy to hear, by the way.
Oh, good. All right. Make something dark. We'll see you on the unemployment line. Oh, hey, ooh. Terrible. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Nia. I'm in third year.
Oh, cool.
So I had heard, I saw a video, I guess, of Glenn Keane talking about Frank and Ollie and saying, they're kind of the whole iron sharpens iron. So
Yeah.
do you guys relate to them, and did you guys get to meet them? Do you have a anecdote?
Well,
Yeah,
I do.
we both met him.
Yeah, we've had a couple.
We're old enough that we met
Had a couple run-ins with those old guys. No, they're sweet. Actually, one of the I gotta say, one of the most defining moments or special moments in my life was inviting when they were still alive. Both, I think Ward Kimball was there too, but certainly Frank and Ollie came to an early screen in Mulan and saw it, and they usually hated everything that the newer generation was doing. Well, in my day, we could have done so, and that was kind of their old codger way of, saying, nobody's doing it like we used to do it. And we're like, we're trying. But they actually liked Mulan, and I talked to them afterwards, and they're like, yeah, that wasn't bad. That Chinese gal was cute. But yeah, it was kind of special to hear from guys that are living legends and people that I look up to that actually said that they liked the movie and were fans of it in some way. So that was kind of cool. I'm like, put it on Instagram or Twitter. No, they didn't have that. That would have been nice.
That wasn't around at that point,
What was I going to say?
He then immediately told him, "Did you know that I am the youngest director?"
Yes.
In Disney history. I'm never going to live that one down. Was there a second part to that?
Yeah, do you relate
Oh,
to them? as
yeah. You know what?
close as you guys
Not
are?
like you would think with Tom and I, because we spent so much of our career at Disney apart, 3,000 miles apart, him in Florida and me in Burbank. But my buddy Mike Surrey became my surrogate Tom. And on Lion King, actually it started on Beauty and the Beast. He did Lumiere and I did Cogsworth when we were junior animators underneath supervising animators that did those characters. And we shared a room together, and we were both working on like a lot of the same scenes together. And then we carried that on. We actually had an opportunity on Lion King to have our own offices because we became, big time supervising animators, and we got our own characters. And they said, "You guys get your own office?" And we're like, "No, we kind of like sharing an office together, and we want to stay together." So they put us in a little larger room that we could share together. And so Mike was, right next to me, and I would animate Pumbaa because a lot of the times he was like the stage for Timon if he was on his nose or on his head or something. So I'd have to animate first, talking about the technicality of animating. And I would walk over and hand it over to Mike. And so he saw we were in each other's business every day. We were joking around. We were listening to soundtracks all the time and, Les Miserables. And I just remember we'd have late nights. I remember thrashing the hallway one night. We were working late on Lion King, and this is terrible. But nobody was there. It was like midnight or something like that. We're trying to get scenes out. And we got really silly and stuff. And we went into the hallway, and there was a dartboard. And we went like all the way across the office. And we were just like, how can these darts, like the length of the theater, just whoosh. And they were hitting the production manager's door and this guy's office and stuff. I mean, if somebody just walked down the aisle, we would have no way of knowing that we would have poked him in the eye or something like that. Luckily, nobody was there. But yeah, the next day, we got in so much trouble. The production manager came back, and her door was full of holes and stuff. And we were like, I wonder who did that. That's abominable. These people.
That Tim Hortons coffee is strong.
I know. It'll keep you going, though. That's for sure. Anyway, that was a bad.
Thank you. Love your words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if I can just, we probably got about 10 minutes and a lot of people waiting to ask questions. So
are we going to do like lightning round?
let's try and fire through them as quick as possible.
So here we go.
I'm so tired.
Oh, look. Let me put a mustache on this real quick. That's
All right, fire.
Okay, so
Faster.
Oh, really? I'll let
have
Tom
you
do that
ever
too, all
drawn
right?
upon your own personal and emotional experience to animate a scene that you felt needed the power and emotion behind it?
That sounds so loaded. Yeah, definitely. I'll tell one story because it seems like every scene has a story, really. But I remember when I was on Mushu, and it was one of the very first scenes I got, and I was just kind of getting into. It was toward the beginning of production. I was just starting to get into getting to know him, drawing-wise, but also acting-wise. Like who Mushu was. But then they threw me, these idiot directors, threw me this scene where it's this great one, where I knew it was getting a laugh in the storyboards. It was one of these, it was going to be the scene that was going to define him, and sort of you'd see it in all the trailers, right? And it was this one where he goes, drag in, I don't do that tongue thing, right? And for whatever reason, that was something that was very popular, even from the very early storyboard version. It never changed. It was always in there. And anyway, so when that scene got to my desk, I thought, and it was one of those things where it always happens where I want to take a week on this at least, maybe 2, and really milk this and figure it out and kind of contemplate. And anyway, but in the end, I had literally, I think, 2 days to do it because I was behind on another scene and all that. And as usual, Now I'm like maybe a day, 2 days left, and I'm put off this really cherry scene. So I remember thinking, I'm going to make it really special. My wife is a speech pathologist, and she studied deaf culture. And I thought, the way he's reading this line, he's like trying to spell it out. Dragon, dragon. I don't do that tongue thing. So I kept thinking about, well, what's a different way to do that other than just air quotes, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something different and new. So I thought, I'm going to have him do sign language. I'm going to do dragon, and I thought, that's going to really be the thing. And I went home to my wife and I said, is this offensive? If I do this, if I have Mushu do sign language, because he's trying to communicate an idea and he thinks he's not understanding it, so he's trying a different language. And I'm doing a visual one. And anyway, in the end, I don't know why, but my wife said, I think that's stupid, but I guess. Try it. And normally she shuts me down when I have really bad ideas, and because it probably would have been very offensive, And but in my head I was thinking, no, this makes sense. It's gonna be funny. And so I remember I stayed up like late that night because now I only have a day left, and I stayed up late. I animated the whole thing with him doing the sign language, and I shot it, and I was like, this is horrible. And I just remember thinking, no, this isn't going to work. And so then I immediately scrapped all that. I threw it out. I reanimated it all in one night, stayed up all night long, and pitched the one that is in the film as to the directors the next day. Really tired. Okay, what do you think? And, I did the dragon, dragon. I don't do that tongue thing. And he does the little tongue at the end. And that worked. So I'm answering your question to say, I've tried the passionate things where I thought I really wanted to do, and it didn't work. I'm giving you a negative story. And I went with the thing that really was the simplest way to do it and the most clear and the least offensive in this case.
Well, that led to like a dragon answer. So should I?
Oh.
You think?
I think.
All right then.
That's a good one.
You won the dragon!
Wow. Yeah, I'm done. Grab a poster.
And by the way, I probably had some better answers to that question. I actually gave the negative side of that.
I had a question about more of your recent work. I was looking at your IMDb and I saw Bunyan and Babe.
Oh, that's me. Yeah.
That's me too, Tony. I worked on that.
I was wondering, were you both director and animator with this film? Or,
So Tony's listed as director. What happened in that movie?
That's a film that I did coming out of my own company, Tenacious Family Entertainment. It's a small independent group that was doing it. They asked me to come on as a director. And
about 90 years ago.
Yeah, I worked on it 8-9 years ago and did storyboard animatics and all that kind of stuff. Recorded John Goodman's doing a voice in it. I recorded him. And then they lost all their funding. This is a common story that happens in the world of independent filmmaking. But the company, after about a year and a couple months of me being on it, lost their funding to make that movie. Well, it ended up on IMDb, and it's one of those stories where it's like, I kind of wish I could take that off now, but things live on as they do. The movie is actually supposedly, 8 years later, they contacted me. So they stopped, they put it on the shelf, but the guys that started it wanted to find the funds, and they got the money to do it, and they brought it back, and it's produced in India at the cheapest possible studio overseas, and it's just an embarrassment. So I've actually asked them to take my name off of that film, which is the first time I've ever done that in my career.
I would applaud that, people.
But sometimes you got to do that.
And I'll say, I storyboarded about a third of that movie. I was helping him out.
Yeah, I hired Tom to do some storyboards.
I'm going to go see it just to see if my board.
Your name's still in the credits, though.
All right, so we have so many people left. Ask your question, grab your poster, one-word answer.
Affirmative.
Has there been anything like with drawing that you've struggled with in the past or still struggle with now? Like specifically for me, drawing faces, looking up or down.
I think this is a Tony question. Yeah. Tony?
What?
Do we have a half an hour?
Yeah. Is there things that we have, this is not a one-word answer, that we've struggled with?
Yeah, like drawing, like for me, drawing faces looking up or down is like really hard.
Oh, it's hard for everybody.
Humans in
Yeah.
general. Tom's strength, as you can see when he was drawing Ariel and stuff, he's really good with women. And I mean, not in real life. No, that worked. Not in real life at all, but
Because he had a date that night.
I sure did. I'm still dating her.
whereas I like drawing ugly things because I'm used to seeing that, being close to Tom all the time.
We're twins. How stupid is that?
Tom's like, we're twins. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
But no, I mean, we do have, every artist has that. Every artist has that thing that, I struggle with drawing humans. That's why Kronk was a real challenge to me. Before that, I'd done, a pig and a cogs and a clock and a Yago and all these things that just had non-fingers. And then all of a sudden, I was like, I got to do fingers. But, you learn, you grow. That's how you keep learning. You got to keep working through those things.
Well, and I will say that if you want to fix that, if you want that one thing that's really hard for you, then draw it all the time. And I was that way with women. I couldn't draw pretty girls, attractive girls, and for whatever reason, and Pocahontas was the evolution of that. I got on the Pocahontas, when I got on that Pocahontas team to animate it, and I'd been doing figure drawings of women, of course, to get that job. That led to me getting excited about, wait a second, I think I can do this. And that was only phase one. That, believe it or not, Pocahontas was just phase one of that for me. I kept at it, and I kept trying to draw women as much as I could. And now I draw them more than I do guys, unfortunately. But then likewise, comic books. I always wanted to be a comic book artist, and so I still, if anybody follows me on Instagram, does anybody follow me on Instagram? Okay, that works. All right, good. I draw comic book stuff a lot too, and that's my sort of, I don't know if you want to call it frustration or whatever, but me wanting to be this comic book artist that I'm never going to be, and it's just fun for me. So take on that challenge, if it's hands, if it's feet, like we all have, and draw 100 of them. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the cure.
Good question.
Thank you.
That wasn't two, was it?
No, that was one.
One of the twins.
Oh no, maybe I am checking in a second.
Yeah.
I do have
sister.
a twin.
Okay.
My question is, after working at Disney and doing other things, do you still go to the movie theaters and geek out at new Disney movies?
Oh,
And
yeah.
You go with your family and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Like Tangled, I saw Tangled, and I wished I would have worked on it. It was so hard to watch that in the theater and go, I could have killed that. I would love to have worked on that. Not that I'd have made it better, but I just really wanted to work on it because she was so adorable, and the whole film was adorable. And we went to Mercury Filmworks today and did a tour over there, and now I get that feeling again because they're doing the Tangled TV show, and it's a totally adorable show, and their stuff is great. So yeah, it made me go, I want to work on that. So yeah, I think that feeling never goes away.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
Hi.
Tom, you're great. However,
Thank
my
you.
question's for Tony.
Yeah! Yeah!
I
I like how you started that.
Just a little nod. So
Yeah.
Tony, when Rob came up to you and he gave you that opportunity to direct, did you have anything under your belt as far as experience went, or did you just gung-ho go into directing from there?
By the book.
The only experience I had was no, is the answer. I mean, I really didn't. I hadn't directed anything. I'd written a script. I hadn't even done storyboards or story on any of the features. I'd come up as an animator. I had just finished supervising animating Pumbaa on The Lion King. That was a big success. And then I was already on Hunchback of Notre Dame. At that time, I was the supervising animator in charge of all three of the gargoyles. So comedy characters, of course, were always my thing, and typecast, you could say, but I was happily typecast. And then I got the call after,
Ghostbusters?
Yeah. There you go.
Who are you going to call?
But yeah, and then the short answer is no. And that's why, directing for animation, that book was such a meaningful endeavor to me, because so many people are always wondering, like, what is it to direct? I know what it is. I hear all the time about what it is to direct a live action movie, but what does an animation director do in animation? A director of animation, what does that mean? And it really is the whole, it's all the same thing. My quick quip is always, well, it's like we do exactly what a live action director does, but we do it in slow motion, 24 frames a second, But yeah, that's why I wrote that book, though,
That would have been a great title, Directing in Slow Motion.
Thanks, guys.
Think about that.
All right, last question.
Oh boy, no pressure. All right.
No, lots of pressure.
Damn it.
Remember when we talked about failure?
All that aside, as animation students, we have to work with other artists all the time, and procrastination is a big issue. So what is your advice with just working with other artists, people with different skills and different workflows? How do you get all that to come together really well?
Yeah, that's hard. I know that Tony touches on in his book that is wrongly titled. But both of us have dealt with that because I've art directed a lot of things, and in my company, whenever we had a bigger project, we'd staff up. We'd bring in more people, usually virtually, that lived all over the country. And Tony, I know, went through the same thing in his company also. And, it's always hard. I will say that I think in both of our cases, a lot of the vetting that goes into trying to find the right artist for the right job, it goes well beyond just artistically can they do it, and it goes into, do I want to work with this person? Is he or she likable? Does he or she turn in stuff on time? And that's where you kind of put on the other hat, which is, you're the boss at this point, and you have to be able to work with this person. And I'd much rather go over somebody's drawings and do the art director stuff of refining something and trying to get them there artistically than have to deal with somebody that doesn't turn in stuff, and no matter how good they are. So the eagerness involved is a huge plus. So I don't know if that helps.
All right.
Thanks.
So unfortunately, that was the last question.
Oh,
People in line, grab the posters until they're gone.
Consolation posters.
They will be outside at a table in the lobby signing, and you can buy their books out there, so you might still get to talk to them. So
We'll just say thank you guys for coming tonight. It's been a pleasure for Tom and I. Thank you for your time. Thank you, guys.
thank you so much for supporting our podcast by buying tickets and coming to these things. The more friends you bring, the more times we get to do this.
And thank you,
So, yeah,
Mercury
you can-
Filmworks.
Yes, thank you, Mercury Filmworks.
Yes. Sigma Media for recording this.
Yes.
And the Ottawa Table Tennis Club.
Indeed.
Ottawa too. Make sure we give one of these to his daughter.